While the coronavirus attempts to ravage countries around the world, China has an almost clean bill of health, except for a few recently imported cases. I had a chat with the Chinese director of Confucius Institute at the University of Lagos, Professor Wang Zhongjing, who escaped the virus when she returned to Nigeria earlier this year. She talks about China's record-breaking efforts and what people should know as they protect themselves from the coronavirus. Professor Yongjing, thank you for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
So welcome.
You came into Nigeria just before, the Wuhan virus became well known in China. How did you react to news that this was going on back home, and what did you do?
Let me just recall. That is in January. So when we heard about it, I think almost all the Chinese people, together with the consulate in Lagos, we just reacted by paying enough attention to the news, the update news every day. And I think very soon, my co-director, Professor Chimdi Maduagu, and me, we just discussed, since we learned about the very sudden and very quick spreading of the disease, and we decided what we should do for our country, for that city, for our country. And we did something, really.
And what did you do?
We just tried to tell our students about the truth in China. And we told our students, we have so many students in Lagos. We told our students the truth, and we decided we should donate something for the city, because the city was in such a sudden, it's like a disaster for everyone in the city. So together with the government, together with the consulate's help, we donated some money for the city.
For a country like China that's seen, a number of health crises, I mean, you got through the swine flu, you also got through a few other, global epidemics. Are you confident that this is just another disaster that China will get over in no time?
Now, for each person, for each family, so if anyone just was infected with this epidemic, we think it's a disaster. But just as a country, we have, for people who are not infected yet, we should work together to fight against this disease and save those people who are infected. So I don't think it's a disaster for the country, but we try to reduce this disaster, and we try to win the battle.
And of course, when the virus was reported in many provinces in China, the government announced a lockdown of most of the provinces. I remember Wuhan was on complete lockdown because they tried to stem the spread of the virus. You think they did enough to try to contain it?
As human beings, we just understand that for the city at first, it was locked down in a good time, because for human beings, no one could work out as efficient as the Chinese government. So you see, the spreading is already in many countries. We compare all the governments, we compare all the countries. So no one government, no one country is doing it better than China now. So we think that the Chinese government is the most efficient one.
You think China can find a vaccine or a cure to coronavirus?
I'm sure the scientists are working on it very hard, and I'm sure the vaccine can be produced very soon. No matter whether it can be worked out, we are fighting it, and you see the spread is almost over now in China. So no matter whether that vaccine can be worked out, we just are very confident about ourselves now.
But in other countries, such as Italy, South Korea, And of course, in Iran, we're seeing multiple cases on a daily basis, so an almost tripling of the numbers on a regular basis. What are they doing differently from what China has been doing to contain the coronavirus?
Okay, since I'm not a scientist, what I can say is about um, when we consider the cases in China, what the Chinese government is doing is perfect, is 100% correct. But in many other countries, different governments are doing the things in different ways. Um, I don't think we can say right or wrong to their reactions to their own cases in their countries. But what I am very sure is the cases in China, it's done correctly now.
There's been a lot of stigmatization and discrimination because of the coronavirus. People are distancing themselves from Chinese people wherever they are in the world. What do you think of this, and what should people know, about the coronavirus and the Chinese people?
I'm sure at the very beginning that all the people, not only um, people outside China, actually all the Chinese people would just think, just like when a person who is born in Wuhan, if he works in a different city, people would just have to ask whether you came from Wuhan recently or you have been in my city for a long time. People do have that question. So it's easy for people to understand that people outside China will have some misunderstanding about all the Chinese people working outside China in that period of time, especially in the first week or the first month. It's easy to understand. But I just learned, I'm sure you learned as well, that many people would have been doing something wrong, something violent against the Chinese people. This is not good. If you just feel fear, just to keep away, but you have no right to drive the Chinese people away without knowing that whether they are really the carrier of the epidemic. So I just feel it's not correct for people to do like that. But the Chinese people are very generous. We are kind enough to those people who were keeping a wrong idea about Chinese and Chinese people. Take, for example, we are supporting many countries outside China to fight against the disease because we have experienced it and we have got a lot of experiences, and we do have now because the epidemic is almost over in China now, and we can spare some doctors, some experts to work in other countries, working with them to help them. So I'm sure people are having a correct idea about what the Chinese people are actually. So, for example, Italian people, people in Iran, people in many other countries actually, they must have a correct idea about us now.
You do know that many people do blame China for this virus. They think that the government didn't do enough to prevent people leaving China and from spreading the virus.
I'm sure that after people have seen what is happening in any other countries and what each government is reacting to this epidemic, I'm sure if people just have a comparison, they can tell easily whether it's correct to blame the Chinese people as the carrier of the epidemic. Now, even when we thought that it started in Wuhan, maybe it's originated in Wuhan, we never just blame other people. If other people, for example, when Chinese people just realized it's really originated in Wuhan, people just criticized themselves by warning each other. We never let's stop eating the wild animals. Let's just learn a lesson from this. We never just tried to escape from taking the responsibility. But now I'm sure people all over the world have realized it's very possible that it's not originated in Wuhan. So it's very wrong to name it as Wuhan epidemic. It's the real name. Yeah, it started there, but no one knows whether it started earlier in any other countries, because many countries have got a conclusion, and they have claimed to the world that it's not originated in Wuhan. Actually, maybe in August, maybe in October, it was already it already had appeared in some countries, like in some places like Hawaii. This is what I learned from Google. Okay, but it's always wrong to name it as Wuhan epidemic. So we Chinese people just are against this.
Do you think President Xi has been tested for the coronavirus?
I'm sure he has been, because all the Chinese people are doing this every day to make sure that since we have to work together every day, we have to make sure that we are safe to each other. You know how strict it is in China now. After being tested, your temperature, and if you just go to public place, you are just suggested you should wear a facial mask. Otherwise, you are not allowed to appear in the public, just to make sure that we are helping each other. We are never making troubles for each other, because this is an epidemic.
And here in Nigeria, here in Unilag at the Confucius Institute, you understand you are encouraging, your staff members to also stay safe and to protect themselves against the coronavirus. Tell us more about it.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Now, actually, you see, this is a team, and since the very beginning of this epidemic that has come to Nigeria. Now, my co-director, Professor Chimdi Maduagu, has been taking good care of both me and my colleagues, Chinese teachers and Nigerian teachers working in our institute. So we just ask our colleagues to take care of themselves, but at the same time test their temperature twice a day to make sure that every day we are in a good physical condition, so that we just feel safe.
And you're all in good physical condition?
Yes, I think so. Because at least once a week, the whole team will have a sports meeting on the campus. And we just encourage all of us to have physical exercises. Since we have a good environment on the campus, we have a very good sports center on the campus.
How soon do you think you'll be going back to China, even if it's for the holidays?
April. That's my expectation.
And you think that by then the coronavirus would have cleared in China?
You see, it's not a big epidemic in this country, because I think many Chinese people know that Nigerian is very good at working against the epidemics like Lassa fever and like the Ebola. Yes, it was just defeated very, very well. So Nigerian is famous for being good at fighting, treating, or dealing with the epidemics. So I'm sure that this can be done very well in this country.
Professor Yongjin Wang, thank you again for speaking with us on Diplomatic.
Thank you. Thank you for your interview, and thank you for your good consideration of my family and my colleagues. Thank you very much.
And that's the program this week. Don't forget to practice safe hygiene habits. Keep washing those hands, keep them away from your face, and learn the protection of social distancing. I am Amarachi Ubani. Thanks again for watching.